Action item number 1 is for the High-Speed Rail Authority. It's the initial operating segment, Section 1, in Fresno and Cook County. Consider site selection of 158 parcels in full and or in part. To date, the State Public Works Board has approved site selection for a total of 695 parcels within the construction packages 1A, 1B, 1C, and 2-3 of the initial operating segment, Section 1 of the High-Speed Rail Project, in order to provide a corridor extending 37 miles from Avenue 17 east of the city of Madera to East Mountain View Avenue in the city of Fresno. Of the 158 parcels that are subject to the site selection request, 1 parcel is within construction package 1C, and 2 parcels, one a railway easement and another an alternate assessor parcel number, are within the portion of construction package 2-3 that was site selected at the May 9, 2014 Public Works Board meeting. The remaining 155 parcels lie within the next 18 miles of the corridor extending from East Mountain View Avenue in Fresno County to Highway 198 in Kings County. All of the parcels subject to the site selection lie within the Fresno to Bakersfield segment of the train system. For this segment, the California Environmental Quality Review Act Notice of Termination was filed May 8, 2014, and the associated federal record of decision was released by the Federal Railroad Administration on June 29, 2014, thereby completing the NEPA process. Consistent with corridor-based projects, minimal real estate due diligence has occurred to date as the alignment determines which properties must be acquired, and the title issues will be resolved during or shortly after the acquisition. This action before the board will allow the High-Speed Rail to make initial offers and negotiate the purchase of these properties identified. Therefore, staff are recommending approval of site selection of 158 parcels in full or in part.
Okay, I have several speaker cards here, so I'm going to just take them in order of the agenda items, and also if you are here to speak on any of these items and haven't filled out a card yet, please do. They're on the end of the table over there. That way I can call your name. So we'll start with Karen Stout.
Good morning. My name is Karen Stout. I'm representing Stout Farms and Stout today. We have not received notification that this action was even on your agenda today. Property owners should be notified if something is going to happen about their property. Since, to my knowledge, none of the people on your whole list of 158 parcels have been notified about this action today. I don't know how you can proceed forward without them being notified. I think the person should know if you're going to be doing something with the property. 2 months ago I was here or so, and you were telling us that there were a couple of resolutions of necessity for Fresno and Madera County, and we specifically asked you, did those landowners know that that proceeding was happening at that given time? And now I don't believe that maybe what you were saying then was true, because if we're not notified, how could they have been notified? Nobody's being notified of any of the actions that are taken here. I request that you table action item number 1 until these property owners can be officially notified.
So I'm going to say a couple of things, and then I'll let staff clarify or add if I get anything wrong here. But the resolution of necessity notification is different from the action we're taking today. So the items that you commented on before, I believe, were resolution of necessity, in which, in those instances, that's triggering a different set of a different process that has to be met in order to notify the property owner to continue engaging in a negotiation for the resolution of necessity. This is a site selection action. This is an action that happens prior to any kind of resolution of necessity that might be considered.
Yes, I realize that.
This action today is to authorize the staff of the agencies that are going to set the just compensation for the property and actually go out and begin negotiations. So this is
How can I vote before this action has taken place. I received 2 letters in the mail strongly advising me that I need to make an appointment with them within a 3-month period of time, or else, they're going to start.
So is your property one of the ones
Yes.
that's on this list?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 of my 6 parcels are in the right of way. Yes.
So
And
I'll ask
that's
staff to
good.
respond to what has happened, maybe prior to today's action regarding your property and what the action is today regarding your property. If you could clarify the differences.
There are a number of activities that occur prior to the action that, the site selection action that is being taken today. The process starts with surveying properties. That not all properties are surveyed, so this may not be a point of contact, an actual point of contact with the property owner. High-speed rail conducts public hearings in the area that would define the activities that are going to be taken and properties that are subject to the that may be involved in the site selection process and acquisition process for the right-of-way. There's environmental testing that occurs on some properties, not all properties, but the real first point of contact where each property owner is notified that they are part of the right-of-way is when they receive a notice of decision to appraise, which I believe is what she's referring to, and then at that point appraisal is conducted, and then we have the site selection item. But this was posted, all these parcels were posted in our 10-day notice. So this has been public information. Each homeowner, each property owner has been notified, through the notice of decision to appraise. And if I'm misstating anything, I also have staff from High-Speed Rail that can speak to this item as well.
I'd like clarification of the 10-day notice thing.
That's what we post on our State Public Works Board on our website. We're required by law to post within 10 days of any action that's been taken at the Public Works Board meeting.
Well, a lot of people don't even know, if you haven't been monitoring the site, you wouldn't even know that your parcel was even up to the first step, in the acquisition. This is the first step in the acquisition process, as far as I can see.
Yes.
And we don't need to be notified from the state, from your group, that this is happening?
Well, I think the notification that this is going to be considered is made through our public website and a notice of our meeting. I don't think that the direct contact between the property owner and the state will occur after today's action.
So, in other words, if you're monitoring the authorities' website, you wouldn't be monitoring your website, so they still wouldn't know.
Well,
My understanding is on the authority's website too, because it was where the corridor was going and all the parcels, I believe there are documents on the authority's website, but I would defer to the authorities.
I think to be clear for everyone who's interested in this, the Public Works Board, our group and our staff are not going to be contacting public owners, property owners, before this meeting. Our notice of the consideration of this item is the 10-day posting of the agenda on our website, and certainly anyone can get more information after the 10-day notice and the posting has been made. Once we take action on the site acquisition, then another set of processes will begin where property owners will be contacted directly. But we're not going to send a notice to 148 parcel owners to say we're considering site acquisition. That's what the public notice of the 10-day posting is.
Just on the website.
Correct.
That doesn't sound very widespread.
Thank you. Mr. Olber?
We covered in Karen Scout's comments some of the issues that I wanted to talk about today have already been discussed, so I'll shorten up what I have. I've provided a document there for each of you to read. And 2 months ago, we were already contacted by an appraiser. On June 6th, we received letters. People in our area were the letters they received seemed to imply that there was an urgency to get the appraiser on the property long before this site selection occurred. In at least 2 cases in our area, we have 80-year-old widows that are being harassed to have access into their property. This seems almost like elder abuse. In both those cases, family members, before the appraisers got there, asked that they be with my contact. That's been reinforced by those senior citizens in our area that have lived in those homes pretty much all their lives. So that seems like a rush to get this project done that's scheduled to take decades to complete. Is people aren't talking within the right-of-way acquisition process amongst themselves between contractors and subcontractors. These people are still getting noticed and phone calls from those appraisers, and from what I understand, you're involved in this process. So it's kind of like as your authority, even though site selection hasn't technically occurred yet. In at least 2 cases, appraisers have contacted tenants that have contractual relationships with people along the right-of-way. Is it the State Public Works Board's expectation that you're going to intervene in contracts between us and our tenants on property that isn't even going to be affected by this train, that will be on both sides of the train after this occurs? So are you going to destroy our contracts? Looking at what's happened in the Fresno area, shortly after this process began, tenants were told they had to relocate within 90 days. Most of our contracts are 20-year agricultural leases that involve trees, orchards. How are you going to relocate an orchard or part of an orchard? I'm sure that sounds silly because, of course, you're only going to take part of that. But appraisers are already interfering in our contracts with our tenants on property that won't be taken by this project. That seems inappropriate. I know you explained that the notification, the site selection, would not go out to the 158 parcel owners that are listed here. But the State Public Works Board does know who they are. I mean, our parcel numbers are there. And this action today will definitely affect the value of my property. It will affect the future value of my property. It will affect the income generating potential, in other words, our livelihood for those properties. 5 properties, 9 parcels, 9 identified takes. So this action today is adverse to us. So just notifying us via the website on your agenda item seems a lack of due process, because you are taking an adverse action by starting this process. Your board, not the authorities. In our particular case, there are 9.
For 1 second, just to ask staff a question. The properties that we're considering here have been already identified by the high-speed rail before they come here, right? So this is not the first time that it's put in the public domain that these are part of the path. So I respect your concern about the value of your property, but we are not identifying your property. Your property has been previously identified by the high-speed rail as part of the path. So our acknowledgement of site selection here is not triggering whatever potential concerns that you have about
Well, what is okay, if you're taking an official decision in the eminent domain process.
This is not an eminent domain.
No, this is not an eminent domain process.
But this is the step your board's going to take before doing a resolution of necessity, if it comes to that, before the eminent domain process starts. It all falls within the State Public Works Board. The fact that my parcel, my 5 parcels are on this list is the start of the process, ultimately, that's going to end in land acquisition one way or another of my property.
Yes, but respectfully, that process began when the high-speed rail authority identified the properties that would be along the path. That's my only point is not that this is not the first. the 10 days ago when this meeting was noticed and that information was made public was not the first time that your property was listed.
Absolutely, you're correct. We've known that these parcels were at risk for quite some time. What I'm here to talk about is the State Public Works Board's responsibility, not the High Speed Rail Authority. You are two different agencies. You may be working together, in sync with each other because of certain authorities or legal jurisdictions that you share that they don't. But this is the State Public Works Board. I'm addressing you, not the High Speed Rail Authority. And I'm addressing your processes, not the High Speed Rail's process. It seems that this action is the first step of ultimately under your authority, not yours personally, but your authority as a board. This is the first step in your process, which will ultimately end in the taking of my land. So this is adverse to us. And we believe that the 158 people on this list should have been notified about this hearing. If not by you, by the California High Speed Rail Authority, but they did not. See, what is the purpose of this hearing if it's just a matter of rubber stamping something?
The purpose of this action is to authorize the activities that would come next. The setting of just compensation by the Department of General Services and the approach by the High Speed Rail Authority representatives to begin negotiating with the actual property owners. That's what this action today is.
And we contend that that's part of an adverse project or process, and that under the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, we are entitled to due process. And we should be given due process. I don't believe the State Public Works Board is beyond the Constitution of the United States. I know that sounds lofty, but it's just a simple matter of fairness. You are taking an action which affects the value of my property. That's unescapable. I mean, we can talk about the High Speed Rail did this or they did that, but we're talking about your board and your authority. And what we're asking for is due process. And we don't believe that we've received it in this particular case. All of that said, this push by appraisers to tell people that they must get out of the way now, or they must acquiesce to people trying to move their houses now, when this board has not even selected the sites, seems a little extreme. A more orderly fashion operation in our area by appraisers that have the right information instead of the wrong information. And, we're receiving maps where the font is so small you can't read it. I've asked for better maps so we can see exactly what they're going to be appraising on our properties. It took 2 months, several phone calls, and several emails to receive a slightly better map. If I was coming on your property and asking you or telling you that we were going to seize part of your property, shouldn't you be entitled to know in advance what they're appraising? Do they have the right to appraise the stuff in our garage if it's not part of the project? See, this information that the appraisers have is inadequate, and the appraiser has told me it's inadequate. They would like better information from their authority, from the authority. This is going to cause conflicts between your board, because it's your authority which is kind of allowing this process to proceed right now. It's going to cause conflicts if your board doesn't practice some oversight here of the process. You cannot step away from it and expect that you're not involved if you have to take actions as this process proceeds. I respectfully request that you table this item until these problems are sorted out.
Thank you. Next, Helen Sullivan.
I'm one of the property owners affected by this action. I would like to also respectfully request that you know not all 158 of the property owners are aware this is going on today. Some of them don't even have access to computers. Some of them would not even think of looking at your website to see what you might be doing that could affect them. There are old people, there are absentee landlords, things like that. This does adversely affect our operations in many ways. Your 10-day notice in itself is not adequate. Some of these property owners, as I said, do not even have access to your website, so they would not be aware of it. Basically, I'm reiterating what Frank and Mrs. Stout said. You need to consider this further before you do something that affects our lives and our livelihood, and that of the other 157 parcel owners on that list.
Thank you.
You